So now we're at the end of the chapter, and what we're going to do is we're going to review some of the different skills that you learned. So the first one is we're going to look over those properties that you tried. I want you to stop the video and guess what's in each of these boxes. Stop the video now. Okay, the first property that we're going to deal with is the identity property. It states that any number that you take times blank equals the number it is. So hopefully you knew that that number is 1. So if I have 1 488, that's 488. Next is going to be this one where I have 813,321 and I take that times something that's in this box right here and I end up with 0. So I look under the box. It is 0. So anything times 0 is always going to be 0 because I have 813,321 pieces. Okay, the next one is going to be the commutative property. So commutative property states that you can switch things all that you want to in a multiplication problem and it doesn't matter. Like you can switch the number orders all over the place. So I look at this one and over here we have 4,300 times 50 equals something times 4,300. So they have to be the same on either side. Well, in this case what they did was they put the 50 first. Over here we're dealing with the associative property. So one of the ways I like to think about the associative property is the two numbers in the parentheses are associating with each other. So we have 15, 6, and 4 here. So if I take 15 times 6 first and multiply it by 4, I'm going to get a certain answer. Now, what if I do something else where I take the second part of the problem first, which would be 6 times 4, and then multiply it by 15? I would get the exact same answer. So the 6 can either associate with the 15 or the 6 can associate with the 4. So that's the associative property. Okay, this is that whole zero trick thing that we learned. So go ahead, stop the video and solve these two problems. Okay, so first off, I got to look at this and go, man, that's a big problem to do in my head. What if I took it down to 6 times 4? So I take it to 6 times 4, and that's going to be 24. And then I count how many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 zeros in it. So I have 24 followed by 4 zeros in order to get that answer. Over here, I look at this problem and I go, okay, 5 times 3 might be my best to do. So 5 times 3 is 15. Then I count how many zeros. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 zeros. So I should have, and this has a mistake in it, I should have 3 zeros behind 15. All right, let's go on to the next one. We're going to estimate each product. So this is that whole rounding thing that we've done before. So go ahead, stop the video, and I want you to write down the different problems that you are going to do after you've rounded it. So if we're going by what the book says, the book always says to round to the largest place. So in this case, that 7 would actually round to 10. And if we were to take this 892 and round it, that would round. Where did these answers come from? Oh my goodness. Okay, so if we were to round this one up to the 800, the hundreds place, the 9 would tell the 8 to go up, and I would end up with 900. So that would give me 10 times 900. So 1 times 9 is 9 times, and then I go 1, 2, 3. There are 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3, and I have my answer. This one, the 93, the 3 tells the 9 to stay the same, so we have 90. And we're going to multiply that by this number. Now this 9 tells this 4 to go up to 50. So I take 90 times 50, and when I go to do that, I take 9 times 5, which is going to be 45. And I count how many zeros. There's 2 zeros, 1, 2. So my answer to that problem would be about 4,500. All right, let's do some exponents. Go ahead, stop the video, try out these two problems. Remember, you're supposed to put it in expanded and standard form. Okay, so 6 to the third power. That would be 6 times 6 times 6. So if I take 6 times 6 is 36, and then I take it times 6 again, I get 216. If I go over here, this is 10 to the fifth power, so I would have 5 tens multiplying. So it would be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And if I were to do that, I'd end up with 100,000. Okay, stop the video and try and figure out, using the distributive property, each one of these two problems. Okay, so we have 6 times 62. I know that it can be broken up into 6 times 60 and 6 times 2. So I have my two problems. So I first do the 6 times 6, and I know that that is 36. So I have my 36 for 6 times 6, and then I'm going to have that 0, just put it on the end, just like I was doing before with my little 0 trick. Okay, now I'm going to go 2 times 6. Well, I know that's 12. So in order to get my answer, I'm going to add these two together. And when I add these two together, what I end up with is 372. If you haven't tried this one, go ahead and try the next one. Okay, so I know that this could be 8 times 30 or plus 8 times 4. So what I do is I write those two problems out, and I go, okay, 8 times 3. Well, let's see. That one would be 24. So I write my 24 and put my 0 out. And then I do 4 times 8. So that's going to be 32. And then I go down and I look underneath and I get 270. But that doesn't make sense. That's not added right. Do you guys see that mistake? Okay, let's fix that mistake. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 4 plus 3, that's 7, and 2. So 272 would be the correct answer for that one. Okay, now this one you're just going to straight up find the answer to the problem. You can either do distributive, or what you can do is the other one that with just the compact way of doing it. So go ahead, stop the video, try it out. Okay, so I know that this can be 627 times 80 plus 627 times 3 in order to get my answer. So I take my two problems and I go ahead and I solve them. So I go over here, 8 times 7. Let's think about this one. 8 times 7 is 56. So 8 times 7, 50. Here's my 5, and here's my 6. Okay. Then 8 times 2 is 16 plus 5. That's going to make 21. So there's my 2. There's my 1. And then 8 times 6 is going to be 48. So 49, 50. That's going to give me 50. Then what I'm going to do is I have to remember to go back, and I have to remember to put a 0 back in here because we are doing the 0 trick. Okay, 7 times 3, that's 21. 2 times 3, that's going to be 6, 7, 8. And then 3 times 6, that's going to be 18. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those two numbers together. And whenever I fast forward and do that, what I end up with is right here. Now, if I were doing this the more compact way, this is what I would do. I would just pretend that the 3 is here alone. The 8 doesn't exist for the moment. 7 times 3, 21. So there's my 2, there's my 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2, that's going to be 8. Okay, 3 times 6, that's going to be 18. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my 0 here because that shows that I'm switching over to the 80. Okay, and I'm going to take and erase this 2 up here so I don't get confused. Alright, so now I start again, only I'm going to be using the 80 instead, but I've already taken care of the 0. So 8 times 7, that's going to be 56. Okay, then I'm going to do 8 times 2 is 16, plus 5, that's going to be 21. So I put my 2 and my 1. And then 8 times 6, that's going to be 48, 49, 50. So I add those up. 1 plus 0 is 1. 8 plus 6 is going to be 14. 8, 9, 10. And I put my 1 up here. That's going to be 2. And my 5 doesn't have anything to add to it, so it'll stay 5. And if you look, it's the exact same answer. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here with this one. 754 times 31. That's 754 times 30 plus 754 times 1. Okay, so let's move this out of the way first. And first off, I'm going to go and I'm going to use my 0 trick here. So 3 times 4, that's going to be 12. So there's my 1. Here's my 2. Okay. Then 3 times 5, 15, 16. 3 times 7 is 21, 22. And then I cannot forget to go back and put that 0 at the end since we were doing the 0 trick. Okay, now I want you to remember back to the very first slide where we talked about the identity thing. So anything taken times 1 is going to be itself. So this one's going to be 754. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these two together in order to get my answer. And whenever I add them together, I get this. So then I'm going to do the more condensed version. So I start off by taking the 1, multiplying it by the 4, well that's 4. I take the 1, multiply it by 5, that's 5. And I take the 1 and multiply it by 7, that's 7. I put my 0 under my 4 to show that I'm going to the 30 now. I'm working with tens. So 3 times 4, that's 12. So my 1 goes up here, my 2 goes down here. 3 times 5 is 15, 16. 3 times